In a world that's just buzzing with AI, where do we even look for guidance? Well, the answer might surprise you. In this explainer, we're going to dive into how a 2,000-year-old philosophy, Taoism, might just hold the key to leading not just effectively, but wisely in our crazy tech-driven age. If you're a leader today, you are probably feeling this. You're caught in a really tough spot. On one hand, there's this constant push to innovate with AI, to automate, to get that competitive edge. But on the other hand, you're trying to protect your team's culture and your company's core values. So, how do you chase progress without losing your soul in the process? So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the big leadership paradox that AI creates, then jump into the ancient wisdom of Yin Yang. From there, we'll get super practical with 5 principles for harmony, peek into what this all means for the future, and finally talk about how you can start walking this path yourself. Okay, so where do we find the answer to this very modern problem? Believe it or not, in a philosophy that's over 2,000 years old. See, Taoism teaches that it's not about choosing technology or humanity, but about finding a natural flow that brings them together. And the heart of that whole idea is the concept of yin and yang. We've all seen this symbol, right? And we usually think of simple opposites, good and evil, black and white. But that's not the Taoist view at all. It's so much deeper. Yin and yang are complementary forces. You literally can't have one without the other. It's less of a fight and more of a dance, where each side flows into the other to create this beautiful, balanced whole. And this is exactly where it connects to leadership. Think of yang as that go, go, go energy, the drive for action, for innovation, the engine that pushes us forward. But that has to be balanced with yin energy, the patience, the ethical reflection, the deep thinking. A great leader needs both. All yang, and you're headed for burnout and reckless decisions. All yin, and you're just stuck in the mud. So, this is the key takeaway. A wise leader doesn't pick a side. They don't choose between smashing goals and thinking deeply, or between action and reflection. They find that third way forward, blending these seemingly opposite forces into a really powerful, dynamic balance. Okay, but how do we actually do this? I mean, it sounds great in theory, right? Well, the philosophy gives us a practical toolkit, 5 core principles. These are the actionable steps you can start taking right now to bring that yin-yang balance into your organization. All right, principle number 1 is harmony. This means we've got to stop thinking of AI as just another tool to manage and start designing a real partnership with it. The goal is to let AI handle the grunt work, the repetitive tasks, which frees up our teams to focus on what humans do best. Big picture thinking, creative problem solving, and building real relationships. So how do you make that happen? First, integrate AI with a human-first purpose. Don't just ask, how can this cut costs? Ask, how can this make our work more meaningful? Second, you have to invest in upskilling and communication. This is how you turn that fear of being replaced into real excitement about new powers. And finally, you have to embed your ethics directly into the technology. Your AI's moral compass has to be just as strong as your team's. Next up, our second principle, flexibility. The Taoists had this amazing metaphor for this one. Be like water. Water is soft, but it can wear down solid rock. It flows and adapts to any container it's in. But here's the thing, it always stays water. That is the perfect model for an organization trying to navigate a fast-changing world. Practically, this means designing teams that can just flow around challenges. Think agile, cross-functional groups instead of those rigid, old-school silos. But here's the crucial part. While your structures can be fluid, your values have to be like bedrock. When your team has that stable center of principles that never, ever change, they feel secure enough to adapt everything else. Now, while flexibility is about adapting to change, our third principle, balance, is all about managing that tension between the new and the old. It's really the art of pursuing bold, disruptive innovation while still preserving the trust and stability that got you here in the first place. A fantastic way to put this into practice is to think of your projects in 2 different buckets. You need explore projects. These are your bold, high-risk bets on what's next. And you also need exploit projects, which focus on making what you already do even better. A balanced organization is ambidextrous. It can celebrate a wild new idea and a quarter of flawless execution at the same time. In a world that is just drowning in data, jargon, and complexity, our fourth principle, simplicity, is a genuine superpower. It's about cutting through all that noise to get to pure clarity. It's about making things so straightforward that your team can move with speed and with confidence. For this, the Taoists used a symbol of the uncarved block. It represents pure potential, an idea in its most natural, simple state before we clutter it up with a bunch of complexity. As leaders, our job is often to carve away the noise and get back to that essential clarity. So, where can you find this simplicity? Start by streamlining your processes. Challenge your team to remove just one unnecessary step from a workflow. Practice speaking plainly. Can that 10-page strategy document become a one-page summary that everyone actually understands? And optimize your tools. Free your team from digital clutter so they can focus on what really moves the needle. And that brings us to the final principle, the cornerstone that holds everything else together: integrity. With the immense power of AI comes, you guessed it, immense responsibility. Integrity means making sure that human well-being and ethics are the absolute non-negotiable foundation of every single tech decision you make. In the AI era, integrity needs clear guardrails. First, you need an explicit AI ethics code. Second, avoid black box systems. I mean, if you can't explain how an AI made a decision, you've got a serious problem. And most importantly, you have to lead by example. Always, always choose the right path over the easy one. That's how you build unshakable trust. Okay, now let's look forward a bit. These ancient principles aren't just relevant for today. They're becoming even more critical as we move into what some people are calling the hyperreal world, where the lines between our physical and digital lives are getting blurrier by the day. And this isn't some distant sci-fi future, right? With things like the metaverse and immersive collaboration tools, the very nature of work is already changing. We are actively building a new reality, one that perfectly blends the physical human world with digital tech, a true yin-yang of existence. So how on earth do you lead in that world? Well, the Tao shows us the way. Harmony will mean seamlessly blending virtual and physical teams. Flexibility will be absolutely essential for reimagining how we collaborate. And integrity will be the ultimate North Star, making sure that even in a simulated world, our interactions stay authentic and humane. We've covered the philosophy, we've covered the practical principles. The last step is actually turning this knowledge into practice. Leading with the Tao is a journey, it's not a destination, and it starts with small, mindful habits. This ancient quote from the Taoist sage Lao Tzu just perfectly captures the whole spirit of this philosophy. It's about empowerment, not control. It's about trusting your people, guiding them with clarity and integrity, and just creating the conditions for a natural, healthy balance to emerge on its own. And so, let's end with a question for you. Thinking about the challenges sitting on your plate right now, which one of these 5 principles, harmony, flexibility, balance, simplicity, or integrity, do you need the most? What is the one small step you can take, starting today, to bring that principle to life in your world?